All right, welcome everybody. It's Arkansas Trapper. I want to do something a little bit different, see how it goes. I'm blessed to be able to spend a lot of my time away from distractions that we find ourselves wrapped up in the world today. Uh, you know, During the winter time, all of my trapping, I do most of it by myself. I'm away from the cell phones, I'm away from the technology, away from the crowds, away from the people, just me out in nature. Uh, I think why I find so much enjoyment in that is because I'm away from those things. It gives me time to think. I think modern man, modern people don't take the time to think about things, to truly think about things, and that's kind of my reflection time when I'm out doing that. But also, I'm blessed during the summer. I work by myself, for myself, and a lot of days I'll go all day long, not speak to anybody. I get up in the morning, speak to the family, send them off, and then it's just me and my thoughts all day. But anyway, I wanted to share some of those thoughts as I have them. I thought I'd start recording them and share with you guys, kind of in a podcast format. See what you think. Um, yeah, just different subjects, different things, not necessarily trapping related, but just subjects of the day, things that's going on, a lot going on in our world that needs to be talked about. So that's what I'm going to try to do. And I'm going to use you guys as a soundboard. Uh, you know, Me not being able to talk to a lot of people, a lot of those thoughts are kept to myself. And of course, we as humans are social creatures and want to share things. So that's what I'm going to try to do with this little podcast thing. So, first, I'm going to touch on two subjects. I want to ask the questions: are preppers a selfish people? Or can preppers be selfish? And I kind of want to talk to a little bit about school security. My local school system, my alma mater, where I went to school, where my daughter goes to school, my community school. It's really grown over that generational time that I was there, and my daughter's there now. Of course, we're outside of Jonesboro, Arkansas. We had the school shootings, happen at West Side. Uh, And so school security is a serious thing that we take around the community. It's grown a lot since I was there. But I just want to touch base on that too. So let's kind of talk about these things. I've wrote a few things down. I'm going to try not to read, but I wrote some things down just so I can try to kind of stay on topic and get this going. But let's get started. So let's get back to that question. Are preppers selfish? I thought about using that as a title for this video, but I don't think I'm going to. It would definitely be a attention grabber. But I don't mean necessarily selfish, but it's a title that we've given to people that prepare and look to the future, give thought to the future. They've been put this title of prepper's been put onto them. Now, I look back at my childhood, my raising, my bringing up, and I grew up on a farm, and we were preppers, even though that term wasn't a thing then. Uh, and I think we didn't know any other way. I mean, in order to live, we had to look to the future. Today, times are so simple, and that title's been given to preppers that I think we forget that community has to be involved in that prepping. Uh, you're not prepping for just yourself. A lot of times you'll get talking to someone about prepping or sticking supplies back, and a lot of times it's for their self, it's for their family, it's really selfish sounding when we talk about prepping to others. Uh, and when I got serious, I grew up, didn't know any better. I was a prepper, and then I got into my late teens, my early adulthood, and just lived life. Didn't give a lot of thought about anything. Then as I aged and I got older, I really started looking ahead, starting my own family as a man. I wanted to prepare and do the best that I could for them. And I really kind of started prepping, the term prepping, started putting back supplies and food and thinking about the future, what ifs, always running scenarios through my head. And my views kind of changed along the way. Now that I've aged, I've been prepping for a long time. Now my views are even different. I believe maybe a better word to use for prepper, excuse me, I believe a better word to use instead of prepping might be an investor or investing in something. You're investing to be able to get through hard times. So titles, giving a title to something's always kind of bothered me. And that's a topic for another day. We won't get too far into it, but titles or giving a label to something is something we've done in modern times, and it's something that I struggle with. But anyway, kind of back on topics. So I think in modern day prepping, instead of past day just living, that we do forget not to be selfish. Uh, it should involve a group. Anytime you think about prepping, you should be thinking about the benefit of others. Uh, when you talk, when you're in a discussion about prepping nowadays, it's usually I, or we is a very small group. But let me give you an example. So it kind of changed my view of trapping, or I'm sorry, of prepping, and it kind of involves trapping a little bit too. So let me kind of run that by you guys and give you this example. Growing up in rural Arkansas, I was always a trapper. You know, we had to protect. We had the animals, we had the livestock on the farm, and I had to trap those predators or those animals that was coming in to kill the livestock because we depended on that livestock for food. The chickens, we depended on them for eggs, and I had to learn to protect those animals by trapping. Now, hunting small game was a huge part of my raising as well. And as a kid, I just enjoyed, as a beginner, just learning it. I just enjoyed the hunt itself, or the catching of the animal itself. But now looking back, I realize that the adults, they they didn't necessarily see it as fun. It was a way to procure food. It was a way to support the family. It was a way of looking to the future. It was a way of prepping, even though prepping wasn't a word. It was just a way that my father fed his family was through hunting and trapping and gathering meat, in the outdoor realm. But, my father, he did get into fur trapping a little bit, and he was big on the first animal I ever remember trapping was a rabbit. And my father, he helped me build, one of the rabbit wooden boxes, the wooden square, long rectangle box, had the solid wooden door, uh, had the lever, the stick mounted in the middle of the box. It was a lever on the string, and the trigger screwed down on the back of the box, down into it. And the animal, the rabbit would come in to get the bait, hit the stick, and it dropped the door on him. That was the very first animal that I ever trapped was that rabbit. And for me, it was fun. It was an accomplishment. It was something me and my dad did together. I was able to take that box, go out there on my own, and catch a rabbit. It was me proving my self worth to my father, and my father appreciated that. But to him, it was a rabbit that we caught that fed the family. Uh, so that farm that we lived on, today's terms it might be called a hobby farm. But it was actually how I was raised. Uh, it sure wasn't a hobby to me when those chores had to be done. Had to go out and get the eggs, had to feed the animals every night. Had to There was always a huge checklist of chores that had to be done every day, uh, and it wasn't a hobby to me. And I think that that kind of ties it back into modern days where we prep more of a hobby instead of a way to live. Uh, but what that raising did is it taught me, without me even realizing at the time, that I was investing in a skill, learning how to do those chores, learning how to catch that rabbit, learning how to hunt, learning how to do all this because it had to be done. I was prepping and I didn't even know I was prepping. So fast forward to an adult, after I got through that young adult years and I started up my family and started building a house and building fences and really looking forward to my future and building and preparing for my future, I decided to get serious about learning the skill of trapping, uh, mainly as a preparation. I grew up outdoors, hunting, always been outdoors, always loved the outdoors, but it was more from a hunting aspect until I set my mind to learn how to trap. And the reason that I wanted to learn to trap was for food procurement, to be able to feed my family. If it got worst case, uh, and everything shut down and I had to provide meat for my family, how would I do that? We've got the cattle here at the farm, we've got the farm animals, and that's a huge part of our meat intake now. Not so much wildlife meat, but if it ever come down to it, and I had to go out and get meat, I realized that everyone around me has their grandfather's old 22 rifle and shotgun, and the deer hunting, which is what most people think of when they think of eating wild game nowadays, is deer. If all of a sudden everyone's out in the woods hunting for deer, those deer are going to get scarce quick, whether they're killed out quick and there's just not many around, or whether they moved to where no one's at. But that deer is not going to be a reliable source, I don't believe. So thinking about that, I needed to start preparing to bring home meat. And of course, Dad's old traps were in there. I thought, hey, I need to learn to use those old traps. And by doing that, I learned, and it didn't just happen overnight. It was over several years, and even still to this day, I'm learning every time I go out on my trap line. But I learned that I can go out, invest the energy and the time now while things are easy to learn how to catch that animal, to learn that animal's behavior, to learn where that animal's going to be. And I can set a trap no matter what type of trap it is. Use whatever the best tool you got, whether it's a columbine, a foothold, a long spring, a snare. And I can set that trap out there to do my hunting for me. Because if times get horrible, people are going to depend on me to not only hunt and bring home meat, but they're going to depend on me to get water, to do chores, to tend the garden, to I mean, there's just numerous things that if we weren't distracted and had to provide for ourselves, it's going to take everyone doing it. Uh, but I can set those traps out to be working, to be hunting for me, and I can leave them overnight and spend my time in a wiser manner, getting other preparations done, getting other things done that have to be done. So my solution was to become skillful at in trapping animals, and by learning these skills, I realized it changed my thought from my beginning thoughts of just preparation for food to provide food for my family. But what I've come to realize now that I'm many, many, many years into it and still learning is that my investment into this skill doesn't only benefit me, it opens up contacts all around me. It opens up communication with others in my neighborhood. If they're having problems with an animal, a possum, a groundhog getting into their animal feed, guess who they get a hold of now? Guess who they call? They'll call me. So I can trade my skill set in trapping to benefit others, and then in trade something that I need, a skill that I don't have, they may have, and it can benefit. It opens up your community. The farmers around, the farmers have problems anywhere around me. Guess who they call now? They call me because they know that I'm a trapper. And it's not only trapping, guys. It's any skill set. The skill set is what's going to be important. The skill set is what you should be prepping for, not the bullets, not the emergency medical kits. Now, these things are important. Don't get me wrong. You need them, but what would be more important than the medical kit would be learning the skills to use the medical kit. I feel like a lot of times when you talk prepping with people, uh, it's about gathering things. It's about having things in storage. It's about having things set back in case of an emergency. But the problem with that is once the emergency arrives, you're not going to have the time to learn that skill set. You're going to have too many other things. You're going to have to live, and you're not going to be able to learn the skill set. So take the time now to learn the skill set, whether it be, you know, taking those 20-year-old packaged seeds that are in your storage, go out there and break the ground up and plant those seeds and learn how to grow those plants. And, instead of having that medical kit stuck back in case you need it, learn the skill set of using those things. Or, as one of my neighbors calls me because the groundhog's getting into his cattle feed, this guy is a nurse or a doctor or works at the hospital. I can depend on, if I needed him, I need to know now that I can depend on him later if the time arises. So bring the discussion up, talk to him. So prepping shouldn't be selfish and me, I, mine. It should be prepping into a skill that benefits the others around you, the people around you. So, so, so let's get back to why preppers are selfish. I think preppers forget to invest in a skill set rather than things. So again, investor might be a better word to use. Skill sets are what's going to be in demand. They're what's going to be sought after every way before the stuff that's in storage is going to be sought after. Those skills are going to be sought after. So that's what everyone around is going to be needing. If they haven't learned that skill set themselves, they're going to depend on someone else with that skill set. And if you're that someone else with that skill set, that's going to benefit you. It's going to be a heck of a prep to have. Of course, all those other things you'll be needed. That all American canner that you got stuck back, it's going to be needed. You're going to have to preserve food. But have you taken the time now in the last 2 or 3 years, 4 years, 5 years? And you're never going to learn it all, guys. So it's like the trapping. It's a continual learning process. And if you haven't started that process way before that process becomes in need, it's not going to do you any good. You're going to have to depend on someone else that has already learned that skill set, knows what to do. So, so invest instead of prep. All that ammo that you got stuck back for those guns. If you're not out practicing shooting, you're not out becoming proficient at that weapon's function. Those bullets aren't going to do you any good. You're not going to be able to eat those bullets. You're not going to be able to defend yourself if the time comes that you have to defend yours or your neighborhood. All those steel traps you got stuck back. If you haven't invested the time in going out and catching the animals that are in your area and learning those animals' behavior, it's not going to do you any good. What good is it going to do you to have that? All those heirloom seeds, all those books you've got in your library, all those books about anything and everything. Yes, those books are important, But if you've only read those books, stuck them back on the shelf, and you haven't gone out and physically learned what not to do, those books are going to tell you what to do. But if you haven't gone out and learned what not to do involved with that skill set, you're going to be in trouble and you're going to be looking for someone that knows that skill set. So be that skill set, guys. So, you might have all those preps put back. You may be able to trade those bullets to another neighbor that's got food put back. You know, you might make time to go out and hunt, but is that going to be the best use of your time? You know, uh, just once there's that dire need, there'll be no time to learn that skill. You're going to become the seeker that's looking out you're looking for someone else that knows that skill set so they can teach it to you, and you'll trade anything to fill that dire need. So invest in that skill set now, guys. All right, so hopefully that wasn't too horrible to have you guys have to listen and get through. But just wanted to kind of touch on that, just some thoughts that I've had. Now let's talk about the school security. I've got some notes here. I just actually jotted these down while I was working the other day. As I was going, have a thought, I jotted down on this paper, and I just kind of wanted to bring it up with you guys. All right, so school security, guys. I feel like that just this last school season, the local school has had two alerts. So now they've got automated systems that send out a text if the school gets locked down or there's some kind of issue. Uh, every parent in the system gets a phone call from an automated system, just a brief explanation of what happens and a text message saying the school's been locked down. Now, that's happened twice this year. The first time I really got worked up over it. Kind of wanted to figure out what was going on. The second time, uh, it almost happened fast. It was almost like that cry wolf scenario, you know, and there ended up being a real threat. That threat was handled, but it seems like it seems like notifying the parents in which the way they do just causes a bigger problem for the school system itself. And I'm not necessarily sure that that's the right path to take. Now, before we even get going, this isn't bashing the school system. This isn't anything. It's just my thoughts on the system, the way the world's going. I know a lot of the teachers, the staff. This community is a community that I've grown up in. I know a lot of the community members. I know a lot of the school members. I know a lot of the school staff. I know a lot of the school, you know, security team. So I'm really pretty knowledgeable and tied in with the school system and the people around. Now, one of the biggest issues that I see in my school is in my area, my community, is the community itself is outgrowing itself. They're building so many apartment complexes, houses. The population of the school and the town is growing so fast the school can't seem to keep up with it. Uh, over the last, I'd say probably 10, 15 years, well, probably even sooner, but school security has become a huge business, and a lot of lobbyists, a lot of money, a lot of business interest that isn't necessarily school related has become involved in the school system. And I believe that causes a problem with your admin. Your admin's so tied up with all the lobby, the communication, the businesses, the running of the system, the keeping everything in order, that the admin, they just can't personally connect with the students like they used to when I was in school. I believe the admins, they just get overwhelmed by all the advocates needing, wanting when it comes to school security, whether it be parents or businesses. You know, politics has become a huge, politics has become involved in almost every aspect of our life now. And school districts are no exception to this. It's a problem. How do we change it? It's just the way the world has gone, and it's an issue. One thing that seems to be forgotten, your communities and your school is almost the very same entity. They're one. You don't only have your school building that's open from 7:30 in the morning till 3 o'clock when the kids get out, say 4 o'clock when the teachers go home and the doors get locked. You've got all this extra after hour activity that happens, and most of the security is concentrated for when the school is in session. You know, I wonder, with all the extra curricular activity, it'd be so easy to go in after hours and plant something if you were wanting to cause trouble the next day. If you're wanting to avoid or get around that security, seems like it's very easy to do. There's no way that we're ever going to completely not have worry with sending our children to school. Uh, that school building in itself is a hub for the community to gather and come together and support each other, get to know each other, have conversations at those school activities. And so I think it all boils back down to your community. And I wonder if some of the problems with this school system not being able to keep up with the growth of the community, I believe that's causing issues. But let's get back to government funded money in schools and lobbyists. This security becoming a business, it's become a marketing place that wasn't there even 5 years ago. You didn't have to worry about all this marketing that's geared towards the schools. Security companies, they're starting to influence school district decisions. All the lobbyists, mandating local governments, they're disrupting the school systems. It's almost like pharmaceutical reps did to the healthcare system. All this outside money is influencing what's happening in our children's school nowadays. It takes control away from the community. The community no longer has control with the school. Now the government is mandating even more, what has to be done within these school systems. And again, it goes back to those administrators just being overwhelmed and not being able to keep up with it all. Just almost wanting to throw their hands up in the air because it's so muddled with what's not important. So, it seemed to kind of take focus away from, it's always about shootings nowadays, shootings in school. That's what we see in the news all the time. A shooting in this school, a shooting in that school. It kind of takes away from, it's not only shootings you got to be worried about in school. It's gang violence, it's rape, it's theft, it's boys that think they're girls going into the girls' bathrooms. It's it's bureaucracy that's invaded our school systems. So, and with mandates and with politics, anytime you involve that in anything, you're going to get corruption. And we've got corruption in our school systems now. So it seems like the process of all these things, becomes more important than the results. So, and it's our kids, it's our children. This is the place where these worries shouldn't be involved. So we think about school security, and you can kind of break it down into three parts. So you basically you got your security or your planning, your emergency planning. What if this happens? You got your guidelines for that. You've also got to have your communication. The second part would be communicating skills. You've got to be able to communicate with parents. You got to be able to communicate, admin and staff back together. You know, teachers and coaches, and you have to have that communication. Your school district with your community. You know, it seems like parent anxiety about school safety is an all-time high. And a lot of that is because when my school sends out two or three messages a year or more about something involving school security, it puts it at the front of my mind at that time as a parent, and it raises anxiety levels. And that's never good to try to work through and communicate and complete any task with anxiety. It makes it more difficult. And then the third part of that security is having to walk and manage around the politics. You know, the school is worried about their image. The superintendent, the admin, they're worried about what the school's image is. You know, they have to keep the maintenance up of the school. You know, so the state mandates. They're lobbying, trying to get government to come in and initiate these state approved crisis plans within the schools. This binder that's hundreds of pages thick, and there's no possible way. The admin, the teachers, every staff, everyone that's there's no possible way that they can understand everything that's written in this crisis plan. So the problem is the problem is everything gets so taken away from the human behavior and the community aspect. It gets so pushed so far away that those things get left behind and not talked about. You know, Teachers and educators, they're not in the business of being teachers and educators to get rich. They're not in it for the money. They're in it for the kids. They're in it for the benefits of the community. But then when you start having security vendors come in and marketing, this security program, because they're doing it because they want to make money. You know, when you get these lobbyists coming in and lobbying for things to happen, they're doing it because someone's making money, because the money's involved. You know, we forget to use our teachers and our educators for many of these tasks that are getting filled by these marketing machines. We're taking that task away from the teachers and the educators that really care, and we're passing it on to these outside sources that are coming into our schools and making money. You know, the teachers, they truly care. Let's give that back to the teachers. So why not utilize them instead of buying into all the tech and lobby money into the school? Another thing, what about all these government mandates, this government money to buy this tech and this security apparatus? What happens when that money's gone? When 2 or 3 years down the road that funding has disappeared, but now the school has all this invested into this new technology and this new marketing machine that they've implemented in their schools for security. What happens to the upkeep? Are they going to have the money in the school's fund to be able to upkeep this equipment and keep it going, or is there going to be, just completely wasted time and money that everyone invested in it while it was there? Is it just going to be gone? So I don't know. I think what's the solution? I don't know. I think we need to give the solution back to to trust in human behavior, to invest in human behavior, to invest in our teachers, to invest in our administrators getting to know our students, to investing in our community. Uh, instead of being having all these things set up in place in case something happens, and then that something happens, and we're all of a sudden we're a reaction force reacting to the problem. Why not start and try to be a preventative from the beginning and go that route? All right, guys. So I've rambled on here for a long time now. Uh, you guys give me your thoughts. Let me know what you think. I think I'm going to start doing just some of these, probably a lot shorter than this, just as I have some thoughts and some things I want to say. I'm just going to get on here, record a little segment, probably post to my page. But anyway, give me your thoughts. If you got anything to add, add it to it. One thing I talked about the school system crying wolf. Another problem with that is when the school goes into lockdown, the parents can't pick up their kids. You can't go to the school. You can't get your kid. It's in lockdown. They're not going to give you your kid. So I placed my kid in this public school system, and I have no doubt they're putting the safety of the kids first. But by them doing this over and over multiple times a school year, it's normalizing the separation of the child from the parent, and it's denying the parents access to that kid. How can that be good? It just cannot be. Anyway, guys, I'm going to get off here. Appreciate you listening. Uh, Hopefully, we make these things enjoyable and work out. And everyone have a good evening, good morning, or good night. We'll talk to you later.